her white scratch pads and her black binders and her red ink pens. And then I very carefully painted on the side of the box, Mama's numbers. And I used bright pink nail polish. I was so impressed with myself because I remembered the possessive S. So I proudly show this to my mom, and she takes one look and says, "You cannot put my business out in the street like that." And that's when it hit me that I had to keep my admiration for my mom private. And it's not that she was ever apologetic or embarrassed about what she did. There was no shame attached to it. My mom made it very clear that the numbers was a legitimate business that just happened to be illegal. And she had all of these ways to help to mitigate the, risk of exposure. My mom basically lived a low-key lifestyle. She never flaunted her wealth. Yes, she always drove a new car, but it was a Buick Riviera and not a Cadillac. And we lived in a lovely home on a tree-lined street, but we did not live in one of the big houses in an exclusive enclave in Detroit. And we were well dressed. My mom was the best dressed of all. But her style was understated, She was classic and classy. No one would have ever described my mother as flashy. My mom's edict was, keep your head up and your mouth shut. Be proud, but be private. And that's why when my first grade teacher asked me what my mom did for a living, I knew I could not tell her the truth. I knew I could not reveal the family business. We all knew to keep that secret. The only problem was I hadn't been told what I should say. So I said to Miss Miller, "I'm not sure what my mom does." And after Miss Miller said to me, "You sure do have a lot of shoes," she said to me, "Before you sit down, I want you to name every pair of shoes you have. Go ahead." I was so nervous because it felt like a test. And
Weird.
so I didn't want to get it wrong. I went through this mental inventory of all the shoes that lined my closet shelf, and I just started naming them. The black and white polka dotted ones with the bow tie, the buckled ruby red ones, the salmon pink lace-ups, and I managed to get through 10 pairs of shoes. And Miss Miller said to me, 10 pairs is an awful lot. And I could hear something bad in her voice as she ordered me to take my seat. And then, the next day in class, Miss Miller called me back to her desk, and she said, "You did not tell me you had white shoes." I looked down at my feet, and I felt like I had been caught in a lie. I knew I had disappointed my teacher, and the rest of the day I was so worried that I was in trouble. And so that evening, after my mother was finished taking her customers' bets, and before the day's winning numbers came out, during that brief expectant pause in the day when she was least distracted and still in a good mood, I told her what happened at school. I confessed that I forgot to tell Miss Miller about the 11th pair of shoes. I had never seen my mother get so angry. She was furious, and I thought, I am about to get a spanking. But in fact, my mom said to me, "That is none of her damn business. Who does she think she is?" And then my mom stood up and said, "Get your coat." And I thought, oh my God, we are going back to school and she's going to confront Miss Miller. But in fact, my mom took me to Saks Fifth Avenue, where we made our way to the children's shoe department. She pointed to the most beautiful pair of yellow patent leather shoes, and she said, "Those are pretty." I'm telling you, I still can remember when my mother pulled out a $100 bill and paid for those shoes. The saleswoman looked at her the way Miss Miller had looked at me. On the way home,
my granddad used to not
my
have
mom
shoes.
said,
Got made fun of for
"You're
his
going
shoes
to
when he was
wear
a
these to
kid.
school tomorrow.
So he would ask the teachers what students didn't have
And you
shoes
better tell that damn teacher of yours that you actually have a dozen pair of shoes. You hear me?"
and buy them some shoes.
The next day, I wore my new shoes with a matching yellow knit dress. And in class, I was so nervous, but I did as I was told. I walked up to my teacher's desk and I said, "Miss Miller, I have 12 pairs of shoes." She looked down at my feet, and then she leveled her blue eyes in my face, and she said, "Sit down." Miss Miller never said another word to me. Sending me to school that day in those decidedly unsubtle bright yellow shoes, my mom really did risk raising Miss Miller's suspicions. But she did it to make a point. And it was one that I understood and heard loud and clear. No one can tell me ever what I'm entitled to. My mom used material things as armor against a world designed to convince us, Black, working class children of migrants, that we didn't deserve a good life. And her mission was to make sure we knew otherwise. So, yes, 12 pairs of shoes for a 6-year-old girl who's going to outgrow them in a few months might seem excessive, but for my mom, it was an investment in how I walked into the future with my head up. But I did continue to keep my mouth shut. For decades, I never told anyone what my mother did for a living. Not even after Michigan's daily lottery became legal. And not even after my mother died. Which means I never got to tell anyone how proud I was of her. Until now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's a TED Talk, probably. They'll probably tell us who it was.
That was Bridgette Davis. Every day, Bridgette plays the New York Lottery game, which is actually called Numbers, at a bodega near her home. She plays 675, her home address, which, according to her favorite dream book, also plays for her mom's name, Fanny. Since publishing her memoir on this subject, Bridgette has received dozens of emails from people of all backgrounds: Greek, Jewish, Irish, Italian, Polish, Lebanese, Panamanian, Ukrainian, and more, revealing how their family members once played or operated the numbers. Nearly all of them were sharing their stories for the first time.
Thanks, everybody.